welcome to Blockchain Technology Conference, first edition. I've got Vinita Rathi here with me. You already had some sessions and are going to be in a panel later today, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about the world of crypto and decentralization and everything. Blockchain seems to be the real winner right now when all else fails. So my question would be, why is blockchain worth exploring? Why should we pay attention to this technology?
Well, because of the power that technology holds and the changes it can bring to the complete system. So, the fact that you can run it autonomously, the fact that, no one can make a decision in isolation these days. For whatever business use case you're trying to solve a problem, it's always going to have multiple decision makers. It's always going to have multiple stakeholders. The problem that we have been seeing until now in technology is that you have to trust each other. You have to know that this is what you have done to take your decision, the due diligence that you have done. And then on that basis, I give my decision. Blockchain eliminates that. So I can have my node, I can make my own decision. You're going to make your own decisions. And because there is already agreed consensus protocol, I can have a trust that whatever decision you have taken, you're following a standard guideline, and I think that is a game changer. Because if you think about it, be it financial use case, be it a federal government use case, e-governance, there are always multiple departments. There are always multiple banks, looking at each other, and they're competing with each other as well. Having this trust that there is a standardization in terms of how you make your decision is just immensely powerful. And I think that makes blockchain really important. Now, that being said, because of so many blockchain solutions out there, you have to be really wary of what is the problem that you're trying to solve. If the solution that you have opted for has the capability to facilitate that problem, basically. If you make the right choices there, then it's going to help you. Otherwise, like any other technology, it's going to be a nightmare for you to manage.
Of course.
Makes sense.
And you just mentioned solutions. So I have to ask, obviously, the blockchain ecosystem is growing and growing, which means that we have more solutions than ever. But how about the tooling? What tools should we use for what solution? Because that's a bit vague.
Yeah. I mean, and look, this is like, what programming language do I choose? To write, to solve whatever I'm solving. I think it comes down to, again, the first and foremost question that you have to always answer is, does this really requires blockchain? I've seen tendency in people where they just want to use blockchain because they want to use blockchain. People have come to us and have said, can we use blockchain here? It's a messaging app. And they want to use blockchain. It just doesn't make sense. Why would you even do that, right? So I think that's the first tick mark that you have to put. Once you're done with that, I always suggest writing down why you're using blockchain for. What is the problem that you're trying to solve? What are you expecting blockchain to do for you in that architecture? And once you have done that due diligence, then you look at existing blockchain providers. Now, when I say existing blockchain providers or solution providers, there are public blockchains, there are private blockchains, right? So again, you have to look at the business problem that you're trying to solve, see what private blockchain or what public blockchain is going to make sense over there, and then use it. So say, for example, if you are doing something that can be modeled as a smart contract, right? So then you're going to end up most probably using Ethereum. Now, there are other blockchains which enables you to write smart contract, like Waves, like NEM, for example. But Ethereum is the one which is most matured, which is most common. There is a good community behind it. So based on that, despite of the gas cost, you would still want to stick with Ethereum just because it's the fastest evolving technology, Similarly, if you are working in an enterprise environment where you're using blockchain more for immutability, so you wanna keep your data protected, and you wanna fight corruption for that matter, then you have to look at scalability, you have to look at resilience, you have to look at reliability, and probably that's where Hyperledger will be powerful, right? So there's no one solution that's going to fit in all the problems. I think it again comes down to what you're trying to solve, what is the key criteria for you for that business problem, and then you go and look at popular blockchain solutions out there.
So the checklist for creating an enterprise blockchain solution would be reliability?
So the way I will always ask questions before I make a decision is how important data protection is for you. So what are your privacy criteria? Once you have nailed that down, then what's your scalability criteria? Like what do you want your performance to look like once you have an operational architecture? What's your throughput requirements? Like how many transactions do you expect to this architecture to handle, say, per second? Who's going to be having the visibility to this data? Is it just you as an entity, or you're going to have 5 different entities who need access to this data? I think that's pretty much it. And then what is the data size that you're storing on blockchain? So if every record of yours is like 200 megabytes, it doesn't make sense to store that on blockchain. Yeah. Then you have to look at a combination of on-chain and off-chain solution. You probably store just hash on your on-chain, and then you store rest of the information in traditional relational database, for example.
Mm-hmm. And of course, you already mentioned that we shouldn't be using blockchain when we actually don't have to, because that would pretty much complicate things. But how about other don'ts when creating an enterprise blockchain solution?
Right now, in all the architectures that we have designed, we experimented with quite a few blockchains out there. And I think one of the foremost and the biggest requirement that an enterprise architecture will have, if not today, then when it actually hits production or when it's widely used, is the scalability requirement, is the throughput requirement, right? Because it's an evolving technology, there will always be times when you'll be stuck. You wouldn't know how to make this work. Now, had the situation been that it's so mature, it's so evolved, and it's so established that the moment you go on, say, Stack Overflow and you write a question, you know that you're going to have 5 answers over there. You want to stick with a technology that has good support for, right? So I always believe that before you decide which blockchain solution you want to use, always think about that unknown first, that what if you are stuck, who's going to come and help you out? And I think that's where, again, in my experience, IBM's Hyperledger has been very handy, just because of the support out there. I wouldn't say Ethereum, but then it's not really meant for scalable applications and for applications that require high throughput.
And let's talk a bit about what's happening right now. And I would ask you, what are the shortcomings of current blockchain infrastructures?
Lot of unknowns with it. So there's not enough documentation, right? Lack of community, lack of clarity on regulations, what you can do and what you cannot do with it. Where you can actually fit in blockchain. I think that clarity will only be there with time, and probably that's the big disadvantage of using blockchain at the moment.
By the way, so it was recently announced that Hyperledger Fabric would be supporting Ethereum.
Yeah.
That is quite some big news, I would say. So what's your take on that? What does this change?
I think it basically is trying to answer interoperability, So one of the problems that we have seen while designing architectures is that often you'll have one solution which is very good for one problem. The problem with enterprise architectures, you'll have 5 problems that you want to solve. And for each problem, you need one solution. But if those solutions can't talk to each other, then there's no interoperability. I think Hyperledger enabling smart contracts, ability to talk to Ethereum is one step in that direction.
It's going to be interesting to see how this develops.
Yeah. I mean, I cannot agree more with the saying that what internet was for 1990s, that's what blockchain is for 2015 and 2018. It's just that only time will tell how fast we grow and how fast this ecosystem evolves and matures.
Do you think there was this session this morning, and one of the speakers said that, of course, a lot of blockchain projects will fail because there are a bunch of them right now, but Ethereum might be one of the ones that actually succeed. Do you think this is the case? Is Ethereum a long-term solution, let's say?
Well, I'm holding off on my ethers, so I think that basically says that I am a pro Ethereum, However, I don't know if you're going to have Ethereum 5 years down the line, or you're going to have a version of Ethereum that's going to be better than current Ethereum, right? But I think as a technology, as a platform that lets you write smart contracts, it is one of the most innovative technology framework that we have seen in the last few years. So it's definitely going to stay either in today's shape or in some evolved shape.
That's very interesting. And last but not least, you are going to be part of a panel later today about the learning and unlearning of blockchain, let's say.
Yeah.
And of course, the technical aspects are really important when it comes to learning a new technology. But at the same time, since it's new, the skills that you already have might not be suitable for, the technology at hand. So what should we toss away and what should we keep and even perhaps develop?
I think with any evolving technology, the place where blockchain is right now, you need to look at it and see what are the pros and what are the cons. And you have to do it without any bias. If you go in and start looking at the architecture with the perception that it's going to fail, the chances are that you're going to only find out things that's going to make that architecture fail. Versus if you're going to take a step back, review it from a neutral perspective, that's when you can unearth the advantages and the disadvantages of the specific technology solution. From the perspective of learning and unlearning, look, that's with any technology solution. Whenever you are reviewing something, you have to make sure that you're not biased. You have to make sure that you're not looking at it from the angle you have pursued previous technology. Some people, and including me, I've always said that blockchain is nothing more than a linked list. A linked list, a data structure that we have been seeing since last 20 years, right? But it's an evolved form of linked list. It's the way that linked list functions and performs makes it unique and makes it special. I only realized it after I started playing with the technology, after I started seeing the use cases where it fits the most. And I think that's very important. Had I had been just saying, oh, it's just a linked list, why am I even going to use it? I'm pretty sure I would have not been sitting here. So,
yeah. That's it. I really look forward to the panel.
Thank you for having me here.
And that's it. Enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thanks a lot.